Discuss this further with Robert Towell from Sasfin Securities. Good evening, Robert. Thank you for joining us tonight. Now, shares in SA's third largest mobile operator, Telkom, lifted more than 9% on Monday morning. I see it closed now at around 3% higher. And this was confirmed after it confirmed that they are sites of a consortium led by the former CEO, Sipho Maseko, and comprised of Axian Telecom and the Public Investment Corporation. What do you make of this?
You know, I think Telkom is in a spot to bother with the amount of debt that it has, and it really is a takeout target for a multiple number of telecom companies. MTN is looking at it, and now you've seen the Maseko coming in, who was the CEO, along with the Mauritius-based Axian Telecom. I think it's there's a good chance that something happens here. As I said, Telkom needs some investment. They've been trying to sell assets and generate income and free cash flow for themselves, but they're not really getting there quick enough. And I think shareholders are also starting to get impatient, and that's why you see in this bid, the PRC has joined this consortium. So from what I'm reading, I can see maybe a possible bid was around 46 Rand a share. It hasn't been it's still unsolicited, so we're not sure if that's the right number. So I think that something definitely will happen, and I think you might see MTN come into this situation as well at a later point.
So, Robert, the Rand continues to strengthen against the US dollar. Very good news. But what can we expect with the week ahead, considering the US Fed will have their meeting this week?
I think markets are just waiting for the Fed. Is it going to be a pause? Are they going to stop interest rate hiking at this stage? I think that there's a good possibility that they do pause, and I think that the Rand's going to tread water until Friday. Obviously, at these good, stronger levels where we've seen 1850 and possibly break 1850 this week. If for some reason they don't pause and you see that the US continues to increase interest rates, I think you'll see the US dollar sharpen quite considerably, and we'll see a weakness come back into the Rand. But for now, markets are expecting a pause, and emerging market currencies are relatively firm against the dollar at this point.
So meanwhile, the price of Brent crude is also down again. I checked, it's about more than 4% down. Can we expect the so-called normal levels of $68 per barrel soon?
Well, I see that Brent just dipped under $70, so it's interesting that it's down at those levels already. The Saudis are continuing to say that they're going to cut production. And every time they say they're going to cut production, and they did one, I think, a week ago, you get a slight spike in the oil price, and then it comes just straight back down again. I think really it's the slower Chinese recovery that's pushing traders to think that there's not going to be that big a demand for oil. And yes, possibly we'll see 65 to 75 maybe for the rest of the year. It really helps South African inflation. The stronger Rand that we're seeing slightly now, and of course the lower oil price really helps SA inflation. And especially with Eskom burning so much diesel, that Brent price is really nice to see down at these levels, and I think it can sustain these levels.
And then, Robert, lastly, there was also some news from the mining side.
Well, Thungela came out with a set of numbers. They were relatively good numbers, but you know, the coal price after it spiked last year to $400 a ton just at the beginning of the Ukraine-Russian war, obviously has come all the way back down to about 130. The average price they got was about $220 or $230 a ton. So they did really good numbers, but they still got issues with Transnet. But they're sitting with a lot of cash on their balance sheet. They've got about 14 billion in cash, which is about 100 Rand a share. So there is deep value in Thungela, and you know, there's an argument to say that you should be continuing buying Thungela at this stage. But we'll see if Transnet does improve and they can get more exports out of South Africa. That will definitely be a benefit to Thungela. Not an expensive company at this stage. I think you could add it to your portfolio.
Thank you for your time, Robert. That was Robert Towell from Sasfin Securities. Like we said earlier,